friends, I'm Dr. Schulze, and today I want to talk to you about eating meat and what's wrong with it. Whether or not a person eats meat or not, I don't really care. What I'm concerned about is your health and helping you heal yourself of any illness or disease you might have, and then creating powerful health. And whether you're healing yourself of disease or creating powerful health, any animal food has no business getting into your mouth. And there's a lot of reasons for that. One of the reasons certainly is that it contains a lot of bacteria, and it contains toxic chemicals and residues and steroids and hormones. And even if it doesn't contain those, it contains antibiotics. And even if it doesn't contain those, it contains natural steroids and hormones that are alien to your body. So for a number of reasons that I won't go into here, it's not a good idea to consume animals and animal byproducts when you're trying to heal yourself of any disease or illness, or when you're trying to create powerful health. Okay, so today I'm bringing to you three news headlines that I got off CNN.com. Let's take a look at the first. The first one says that the FDA okays meat and milk from most cloned animals. Sounds a little scary to me. Let's see. Atlanta, Georgia. Meat and milk from most cloned animals is safe to eat, according to the Food and Drug Administration that announced that today. According to a 968-page risk assessment report, the FDA found no safety risk in meat from healthy cloned cows, pigs, or goats, or the milk from cloned cows and their offspring. It actually says that it's highly unlikely that any clones will be used in food production because the cloned animals are too expensive. It says more likely, the experts say, that the offspring of the cloned animals will be used for meat and milk. Great. This is like making a copy of a copy. I can see, or a copy of a copy of a copy. I can see all sorts of problems and scary issues when we talk about that. Finally, this article says that while the safety of any food cannot be proven with absolute certainty, consumers should have confidence that meat and milk from cloned animals and their offspring is safe. Okay, so the government is basically telling us no problem with eating scientifically test tube made cloned animals, eating their flesh and eating their milk. Sounds a little scary to me. Whoa. Look at this. The next article, 1 month later, we had one government agency telling us a month ago that it was okay to eat cloned meat and milk. Now we have another government agency recalling 143 million pounds of beef. Look at this. USDA orders recall of 143 million pounds of beef. Now, these weren't even cloned animals. We have a hard enough time keeping regular meat and milk and animals safe for people to eat. According to this article, a slaughterhouse has been accused of mistreating cows. I guess killing them is not mistreating them before they kill them. They recalled 143 million pounds of beef in what the federal officials say is the largest beef recall in U.S. history. According to this article, it surpasses the previous recall of 35 million pounds of processed meat, according to the Associated Press. They said that the cattle had lost their ability to walk, that these cattle were slaughtered, couldn't even walk, and they were slaughtered without an inspector having examined them for chronic illness. Well, I would suggest that they had a chronic illness if they couldn't walk. It goes on to say that because they can't walk, they pose a higher risk of contamination with E. coli bacteria and salmonella bacteria because the animals are lying down in their feces. Okay, sounds again a little scary to me. It says that 37 million pounds of the meat went into school lunch programs. Now we're feeding it to our kids, but should we worry? Well, yes, because the recall was backdated 2 years, which means the great majority, in quotes here, of the meat has already been consumed by our children eating their school lunches. If this isn't bad enough, in January, the Humane Society of the United States accused Hallmark Westland of abusing their downed cattle, these cattle that couldn't even walk, that were going to be slaughtered. And the Humane Society released video showing the workers kicking the cows, kicking them while they're down, jabbing them in their eyes, ramming them with a forklift, and shooting high-pressure water up their noses in order to get them and force them to get them on their feet so they could walk to slaughter. I got a few problems with that, my friends, for a lot of reasons. Probably reason number one, being a human being. And my last article off of CNN.com from Austin, Minnesota, Medical Mystery Solved. According to this article, this lady who lived and worked in Austin, Minnesota for more than 15 years, and her daily routine was not unlike everybody else in the community. She worked her regular shift, but she worked it at a food processing plant. In November of 2006, she started experiencing very bizarre and unexplainable symptoms. It first started with the tips of her fingers would go numb, then cramps in her legs, then cramps in both legs, and now her feet, her legs, and her hands were starting to go numb. She hadn't had any major health problems in the past, apparently, and according to medical doctors. Her local doctors said that they had never seen anything like it. So she underwent countless tests and saw almost 20 different medical doctors, according to this article. But all the diagnoses were hazy, like many medical diagnoses. Among them were everything from depression to gallstones, but apparently she developed some rare type of neuropathy, which is a disorder or death or disease of the nervous system. A year later, she couldn't even stand anymore and eventually was bound to a wheelchair. The doctors couldn't believe how fast that the disease progressed in a 4-month period, and I wasn't able to walk anymore. The article goes on to say she's saying that I'm only in my middle 30s and I can't walk. Well, within another year, they tracked down 12 other people with the same symptoms and similar stories. And these individuals had a common problem and a common illness, but they also had something else in common. They all worked in the same place. And the name of the place was Quality Pork Producers in Austin. They all work there, and where they slaughter more than 18,000 hogs are slaughtered every day. 18,000 hogs a day in this room. When they looked a little further, it seemed these workers were all clustered in a particular part of the plant, often referred to as the head table. I'll repeat that. They worked in the same part of the plant called the head table. It was the area where brain tissue is harvested and packaged. The market for pig brains apparently includes mostly the American South in dishes like brains and eggs, of course. Sorry, I hadn't thought of that one. It's also sold to some Asian countries, and it's stir-fried in, I guess, brain stew, pig brain stew to be exact. But according to this article, state and federal health authorities said that eating pork brains is completely safe. Now, I get confused here because a month ago, the article said that the FDA said that eating meat and flesh and milk from cloned animals and cloned animals was safe. Then a month later, another government agency recalls 130-some million pounds of beef, even though it was unfortunately fed to our children. And now another agency is saying that eating pork brains is completely safe. I think a lot of the federal agencies need to start talking to each other a little bit more. Anyway, she worked in this headroom where they harvested the brains, where they basically got the brains out of the pig's skulls. It says here the procedure is high bursts of compressed air are shot into the head cavity to remove the brains. And sometimes this liquid and water and brain tissue is turned into a mist. It goes on to say that health investigators said that droplets of this mist entered the woman's system through her nose and her mouth. That sounds a bit obvious to me. And that triggered an attack on the body's nervous system, killing parts of her nervous system. According to the Center for Disease Control, they gave a new name to this disease called progressive inflammatory neuropathy. I might have called it blowing out pig brain and inhaling their mist disease. Anyway, it says while health authorities are convinced the outbreak is contained, they said it will take months, maybe years, to fully understand what triggered this illness in the workers. I thought we had figured that out. It's called high pressure blowing out and misting of pig brains and then inhaling it. And friends, I have one more thing to say. You know Dr. Schulze always has one more thing to say. Look at the size of this lady in the picture. I'm sorry, lady, but she looks like a pig. Look at her legs. Look at the size of them. She's 100 pounds overweight. I think she's been eating some of the animals like pigs and maybe turning into one. Friends, obesity is a huge problem, maybe one of the hugest problems in America today. And one of the main reasons is we're eating too much food and we're not moving enough. And one of the food reasons is we're eating too much meat. We're starting to look like cows and starting to look like pigs. All the fat in that kind of food and their milk products and that fat inside that meat, friends, do me a favor and do yourself a huge favor. Remember, I'm looking out for your health. We need to stop eating animals, stop eating their byproducts, especially if you're trying to heal yourself from any illness or disease, and especially if you want to create powerful health. Thank you.